Did Uber and Lyft today. I wanted to mention something, that it is possible to make good money with these apps, but it's not a regular taxi. It has to be something special. And to give you an example, so I did 3 trips. Hold on, let me see. Yeah, I did 1, 2, 3, 4. I did 4 trips with Lyft and made $48 on 4 trips. And one of the best ones was during the turbo times, kind of like Uber calls it surcharge, Lyft calls it turbo. So there was a 40% turbo, which pretty much acts as a tip, So yeah, it was 20 kilometers, but base earnings $12.29, 40% turbo, $4.91, almost $5. GST received $1.29. GST paid 43 cents. I can never figure out how they determine GST, but it says your earnings $18.06. Of course, it's still cheaper than $1 per kilometer. But yeah, Lyft is definitely cheaper. But this turbo or surcharge really can spike your earnings. And there was no tips on Lyft today, but I was able to cash out right away because they give you this option. They charge you like $1 or something. So I clicked cash out, and within minutes, like 2-3 minutes, the money is in my account. So that's what I do now. Like after, I don't want to wait a week. After each shift, I click cash out on Lyft and Uber, and I see my money probably in less than 2 minutes. It's just pretty much immediate. Now, so 4 trips with Lyft. Now with Uber, I did 11 trips, so total 15 trips, and I made $140. So basically $190, and that's gross. That's what they paid me without taking into account gas, maintenance, tires. So it's cheap. But here's one thing I wanted to mention. Out of these 11 trips, I got 2 tips, and they were really kind of like telling, Okay, where is it? Hold on, because it shows you the entire week. Okay, Saturday. Just bear with me for a second. Oh, by the way, my first trip, I turn on both apps right at home. And my first trip was a girl in my building. No, in the next building. Like we have 4 buildings here in this, at the same address. There's like building 1000, 2000, 3000, 4000. So I'm in 1000. My first passenger was in building 2000, same address, like 100 meters. And she was late for a bus that was, the stop was in Cross-Iron Mills, like 8 kilometers away. And she was going to Red Deer. And I picked her up. She was really impressed. She says, "Oh man, my app said 1 minute, And we rushed, and we were there. The bus was still there. I think I dropped her off like 5 minutes before the bus was leaving. And so she was super happy, and she gave me a tip, by the way. No, so yeah, there was 3 tips I got today. I think she gave me $3. Yeah. So this trip to Cross-Iron Mills, it was like $8, pretty much like it's always like $1 per kilometer Canadian. So she gave me $3, and so I made $12. But the problem was is that I ended up at this huge shopping mall, Cross Island Mills, at 8 in the morning when it's still closed, you know. So there's definitely nobody leaving the shopping center because everything is closed. So I just drove back and I lined up at the airport, you know, because you have to be in that special parking spot. And from the airport, oh yeah, from the airport, I think as usual, it was Lyft. Like Lyft is always quicker because there's less drivers. And so my second trip was, I think it was the one with the turbo. Yeah, it was 20. Yeah, it was from the airport going downtown, where I made this extra almost $5, but still it's like $18 for 20 kilometers, even with the turbo. So Lyft is basically, it's like one guy said, Lyft is SHIT compared to Uber. But the morale of the story, what I'm trying to say, okay, let's go back to Uber here. I'm just looking at my phone. The best trip of the day was I dropped off a family of 4 in an industrial area, and I'm thinking, where are we going? You know, there was like husband, wife, and 2 small kids, maybe like 10 and 12, I don't know. And it turns out they were going to Progressive car dealer. I'm guessing they bought a car, they were picking up a car. And this was like middle of industrial area, southeast of central Calgary. And there's nothing there. It's all basically factories and stuff like that. And they all closed on Saturday, and today was Saturday. But then I look at the map, what I always do is I look at Google Maps to see, is there any like Walmarts or big grocery stores, like Safeway, Loblaws, whatever, near me. And I see that I'm pretty close to 9 Avenue. And 9 Avenue in that area, east of the river, it's basically all restaurants, there's lots of pedestrians, and I'm thinking, bingo. And so I drove there and I found a parking spot, and I probably just sat there for 5 minutes. All of a sudden there's an offer, and it says my customer is basically 100 meters away. And that's one thing I noticed about Uber, by the way, recently, that quite often your passenger is just a couple of blocks away. Whereas with Lyft, maybe because there's not enough drivers, but Lyft it's like 3 kilometers, 5 kilometers, it's always much further away. But Uber is like the... Oh, wait, the first trip, was it Uber or where the lady was in the same building? I'm confused now. My first trip, the lady who gave me $3, who was going to... Yeah, it was Uber. It was Uber. Let me double check. Earnings activity. That was my first trip. Yeah, it was Uber. And she was 100 meters away. See? Uber, basically, when you drop a passenger, you can just sit there or just drive to a busy area, and Uber will get you somebody real close, And yeah, so that was the lady who gave me $3 tip for getting her on time to the bus to get to Red Deer. I'm not sure why she didn't get Uber to go to Red Deer. That would probably be like $100 because it's about 85 kilometers away. No, but the best trip of the day, so when I parked on that 9 Ave, and all of a sudden I see Uber gives me a ride, so I accept it, and it wants me to go west on 9 Ave, then turn, and then go into a back alley, pretty much where I was sitting, but in the back, like 10 meters away in the back alley. Like, what the heck? So I started looking, maybe I can just go into that driveway that was right behind me. And then I see on the map that the customer is moving, you know, like because they show their cell phone, right? And if the customer is walking, you can actually see that icon, the logo for the passenger is moving. And all of a sudden I see a guy waving at me. And it's my customer. And so I took him to a hotel from 9 Ave. I took him to a hotel in downtown. Okay, let me find this. Like, what? Why am I losing all these? Hold on. Because they all look similar. Okay, $1 tip. $5 tip. Yeah, here it is. So here's what it looks like. I don't know if you can see it, but it's so bright. Why is it so bright? Oh, cool. Well, of course, now it's all mirror-like, but I picked him up here on 9 Ave and I took him downtown, right? And so it's, you know, it's an expensive hotel. So the distance was 3.6 kilometers. And after the tip, I made $13.16. Why? Reason number one, the guy ordered a Comfort, Uber Comfort. So he wanted to have a recent model vehicle, and my Jeep qualifies for Uber Comfort. And so when somebody's willing to pay more to get a, you know, a newer vehicle that's Uber Comfort, they pay more. And so I think the number I saw was like $8, but even $8 for 3.6 kilometers, that's pretty good. And then he gave me a $5 tip. And I can tell by the fact of tipping that this guy was an American, because Canadians are very cheap. I'm sorry to say, it's basically, it's a miracle when you get a tip, you know. So usually it's an American tourist, and so I made $13 total for 3.6 kilometers. You know, now we're talking. So instead, of course, because this was like a singular best ride ever, everything else was like $1 per kilometer, even less. So when I look at my mileage, I did like 230, 240 kilometers, but my gross revenue was less than $200 today. So, but if I could get Comfort or Uber Premium or Uber XL, you know, that's when your rates can get more fair, because I don't think $1 per kilometer is fair. You know, it's too cheap. And so it took me from 8 in the morning until I think like 4 to make what is it, like $185, and that's gross. So you have to deduct taxes, maintenance, gas, you know. So yeah, a regular Uber X and a regular Lyft are very cheap. They are not worth it unless you're really struggling to buy food, you know.